and welcome to today's edition on MFPR. Today we're going to talk about male birth control, and today I have with me Lauren, who is a doctor of male biology, Suzette, who is a gynecologist.
Good to be here.
Clayton, who is a sociologist of men, I believe.
Ahoy.
And Seth, our in-house Chico State media intern.
What's up, man?
So, where do we even begin with male reproduction?
I mean, I'd be down. It sounds pretty cool. Like, isn't it just some, like, switch that they, like, plug into your belly button and you can just turn it on and off whenever you want?
I don't feel so good.
Are those spores going on the microphone?
Does anyone else feel like a mushroom?
Oh, Seth, I do feel like I'm being controlled by a sentient fungus. Well, that brings me to the next part of my mission here, which is I, as in we, are one, and will now be describing, from the beginning, our relationship with soil as far back as our minds can recall. And by our minds, I mean our one mind. Because we are one sentient fungus being with many mouths. To begin, I'd like to talk about the role of lichen, or as I like to call them, my enslaved algae, and our relationship in conquering the parent material of the earth. To begin, I started a home for them, and they clung to me, enacting photosynthesis so that they could feed me while I worked to house them. I shot my hyphae deep into the parent material. And as my hyphae grew, they absorbed more and more nutrients and broke down the parent material to feed my algal babies. Finally, after accumulating enough nutrient value from both the parent material and my algal babies, I finally decided to secrete more substances in order to begin the process of chelation.
Oh, you're talking about chelation? Chelation is when I form ring-like structures and I grab onto metal ions to make it available for plants. I grab the immeasurable nutrients and I can hold on to them in the soil until I meet up again with a root. The heavy metals enter the roots and are carried through the xylem to the leaves and structure. Some of the metals I collect for these plants are iron, copper, zinc, and manganese. I definitely help out the plants by controlling the concentration of these metal ions. If I don't control them, then they will result in chlorosis and necrosis and may have some deficiencies and toxicities if the plant takes up too much. My relationship with the roots help extend the root network so I can find more nutrients in the soil. In return, plants nourish me with carbon and then I can also feed on the decomposing matter when the plants die.
Decomposition. Decomposition is the source of all of my nutrients and is thus the basis of the entire soil food web. Now, decomposition, there's a couple different things happening there. The bacteria come in at first, but then I quickly dominate the scene. These main decomposers are known as saprophytes. Doesn't it have a lovely ring to it? My name as a decomposer? Saprophyte.
Yes.
Then there's a succession initially. All the fresh stuff, I love it and I digest it very quickly. Then get to the hard, chewy, woody stuff, that lignin. That's delicious too, and that lasts much longer. As this breaks down, I form humic acids, and this is the sweet nectar of life. These stable carbon rings of humic acids are what create stability in the nutrient flow in the entire soil food web. All of this, what does it do exactly for soil? What I know is that it improves water infiltration, it improves structure, it provides buffering capacity, and the chelation that I had previously mentioned. Now, all of this, there's so much of it. There's so much to share, especially with my plant friends.
Plant
plants, that's where I come in. So this is mycorrhiza, right? We form a relationship, a symbiotic relationship with plants. And this process begins when one of the spores works its way into the soil and just stays there for a while and waits.
So patient.
So patient. And then a root will come by, and with it, it brings in a flourishing of life, and the spore is able to germinate and reaches out a hyphae to the root. Once it reaches the root, it forms a kind of relationship, and there are two different relationships that can be formed here: the ectomycorrhizal and the endomycorrhizal. Ecto means on the outside, so the ectomycorrhizal relationship means that it forms on the outside of the root, so the hyphae surround it and poke in a little bit, but it doesn't really penetrate the root. This is mostly with woody root systems, like in forests. Endomycorrhizal is where the hyphae go into the root and form this relationship, and this is the most often found in agriculture with the soft-rooted plants, as it's able to penetrate inside the root and into the chambers and just grow and give these nutrients from the decomposition into the plant. The fun thing about us, the mycorrhizae, is that we also produce globamin, which glues aggregates together. It's like kind of a sticky substance, and that helps create aggregates, and it helps create soil stability, where tilling isn't so great for that. It breaks apart these aggregates. But I think we all know a lot about this. But how can we even think about the process of how spores even get into the soil? Like, what even is that?
Well, I can tell you about that. I mean, we fungus, we go wherever the wind takes us. I mean, personally, I get around all kinds of ways.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you more if you want. I mean, sometimes my reproduction is pretty vanilla, pretty clinical. You know, I meet up with a consenting lady mycelium strand, we fuse our nuclei together, grow a mushroom, and it'll eventually let out millions of spores at the surface that germinate, grow up to be just like me, and repeat the process all over again. But sexual reproduction can get pretty boring, so I'm pretty flexible with how I reproduce. I'm really up for anything. Hell, if you chop me into 10 pieces with your tractor, I'll turn into 10 brand new me's. Although, I do have my limits. My safe word is over-tillage. Don't keep breaking me down without giving me a chance to build back up. And I can do this business all by myself even. I can reproduce all on my own when I strike out with the ladies. I mean, it is called mitosis, not hertosis, after all.
What other functionalities a fungus can have other than reproducing with themselves?
I mean, okay, I'll try to get a little more serious here. So, I mean, you mentioned, Annabelle, that mycorrhiza help the farmers because they fix nutrients and carry them to the root, provide drought tolerance and resist pathogens and toxic metals. So they're great for the farmers, but they're good to grow and good to eat. We fungus, we're a $1 billion industry in the U.S. Over 900 million pounds of us grow every year for humans to enjoy. And, I mean, really, mushroom farming is a low-tech, low-risk investment that requires the bulk of its work to be done when the farmers have no other stuff better to do anyway. So it's a pretty good win-win for them.
What about the medicine?
Oh, you want to know about the medicine? Well, there's a lot of really good advances in how much we can do for humans medically, too. So, in a double-blind placebo-controlled trial at Johns Hopkins University and NYU, 80 cancer patients with anxiety and depression were randomly assigned a single dose of psilocybin or a placebo, along with psychotherapy. That single trip of psilocybin produced immediate, substantial, and sustained improvements in anxiety and depression, and decreased feelings of hopelessness for them, while the placebo did not. At the 38-week follow-up, the dose was associated with enduring anxiety and antidepressant effects in about 70% of patients.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Does anybody else feel weird?
Just a little bit.
Funny.
I never knew male birth control could send me on such a trip.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great episode, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you, listener, for listening to this episode on MFPR. Come back tomorrow for coverage of President Trump's tweet storm aimed at a small-time Brooklyn SoundCloud rapper, why the EPA has been banned from saying the phrase environmental protection, and also, ever wonder how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? We speak with a group of engineering students from Purdue University who created a licking machine to find out.
Does anyone have some Advil? I have a clear headache for some reason.